Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to the second lecture of the first week of NPTEL course on modernization and creative communication. We start with the question, what is modernization? Modernization refers to the process of updating systems, ideas, institutions to align with contemporary needs and perspectives. It's not merely about aesthetic improvements, but entails adopting innovative and analytical approaches. The concept gained prominence in the early 20th century, emphasizing intellectual and physical renewal. At its core, modernization is closely tied to modernity, which champions rationality, analytical thinking, and innovation. It encourages criticism and the pursuit of knowledge through inquiry and empirical validation. Historical examples include Industrial Revolution, modernization transformed Europe and North America. Traditional agrarian economies shifted to industrial production, leading to rapid urbanization and technological advancements. This period illustrates the shift from traditional to modern economies and the societal challenges that accompanied it, such as labor exploitation and environmental degradation. And what was the relation between the modernization and the church? Now, the modernist movement in Catholicism emerged as a significant theological and intellectual endeavor during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Its principal aim was to reconcile the doctrines of Catholic Church with the advancing scientific and intellectual paradigms of the modern age. This movement sought to address the growing divide between faith and reason by engaging with contemporary philosophical, scientific, and historical methodologies, reinterpreting theological concepts and practices to resonate with modern intellectual frameworks required a nuanced approach. The goal was not to undermine the authority of the Church, but to demonstrate that faith and reason should coexist in a rapidly changing, transforming intellectual climate. This initiative mirrored the broader societal efforts to align tradition with innovation, a central theme of modernization. One of the critical areas of focus for the modernist movement was the reinterpretations of miracles, traditionally regarded as divine interventions that defy natural laws. Modernists argued for understanding miracles within their allegorical, ethical, or symbolic dimensions rather than as literal disruptions of the natural order. For instance, the New Testament miracle of the feeding of the 5,000 could be reimagined as a narrative promoting communal solidarity and generosity, illustrating moral and spiritual truths rather than focusing solely on physical multiplication. This reinterpretation aligns with the broader theological efforts to contextualize religious narratives in ways that resonate with contemporary audiences. Other examples include the reinterpretation of the resurrections as a symbol of hope and renewal other than solely a physical event, or viewing biblical cosmology as a theological reflection rather than a scientific account. These approaches aim to harmonize scriptural interpretations with advancement in natural sciences and historical critical methods. The modernist movement drew on theoretical perspectives from notable philosophers and theologians. Thinkers like John Henry Newman emphasized the development of doctrine, suggesting that religious truths could evolve in their understanding without compromising their essence. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin integrated revolutionary theory with Christian theology, proposing that spiritual and material world were intrinsically connected in the process of cosmic revolution. This example encapsulates a broader theme within modernization: the tension between preserving foundational beliefs and adapting to external societal pressures. Religious institutions were not alone in facing such challenges. Governments grappling with the demands of industrialization adapted traditional governance models to fit modern bureaucratic frameworks. Similarly, businesses evolved from local craft systems to globalized industrialized enterprises, reflecting shifts in economic and social priorities. The modernist movement also faced significant opposition, both within the Catholic Church and from external critics. Popes labeled modernism as the synthesis of all heresies and launched measures to suppress its influence. This resistance underscores the complexity of modernization, where attempts to innovate often provoke backlash from traditionalists seeking to protect established norms. In broader societal terms, the modernist movement exemplifies the dialectic of change and continuity. It demonstrates how institutions, while rooted in enduring principles, must engage dynamically with external intellectual, cultural, and technological shifts to remain relevant in a changing world. This dynamic interplay continues to shape not only religious traditions but also educational, political, and social systems worldwide. Now, modernization can also be understood through the lens of evolutionary theory, which provides a dynamic and multifaceted perspective on societal development. Unlike traditional models that focus on linear progress, the evolutionary approach draws inspiration from Darwinian thought, emphasizing the adaptability of societies to their environment and the diverse trajectories they may follow. This model highlights the importance of variation, selection, and adaptation in shaping the paths societies take toward modernization, suggesting that there is no single universal pathway to progress. Our evolutionary theory has a complex and problematic history of application in the social sciences. Misinterpretation and misuses of these ideas give rise to harmful ideologies such as social Darwinism and eugenics. These frameworks falsely asserted that certain groups or cultures were inherently superior, using evolutionary concepts to justify racism, imperialism, and colonial exploitation. Such distortions not only caused significant harm but also obscured the true potential of evolutionary theory to offer nuanced insights into societal change. When applied correctly, the evolutionary model underscores that societal progress is non-deterministic, shaped by a confluence of factors including historical context, environmental pressures, and human agency. Instead of adhering to a predetermined script, societies navigate their own paths, balancing internal priorities and external influences. Let's engage with some historical examples. The Meiji Restoration from 1868 to 1912. Now, during this period, Japan faced the challenge of modernization in response to the growing Western influence and technological advancement. Rather than imitating Western models wholesale, Japan pursued a selective approach and adopted advanced technologies, industrial practices, and administrative systems from the West, while simultaneously preserving core elements of its cultural and societal identity, such as its imperial institution and traditional values. This strategic synthesis enabled Japan to modernize rapidly, emerging as a powerful industrial nation without sacrificing its unique identity. By contrast, other countries that attempted uncritical adoption of Western norms often struggled with cultural dislocation and uneven development. The Meiji Restoration demonstrates how an evolutionary perspective, adapting to external pressures while maintaining internal coherence, can lead to successful modernization. In sum, the evolutionary model of modernization offers a compelling framework for understanding societal change. It rejects the oversimplification of linear progress and acknowledges the intricate interplay of factors that shape development. When applied thoughtfully, it reveals that modernization is not a one-size-fits-all process, but a complex adaptive journey unique to each society. Now let's talk about post-war modernization in the Third World. The post-World War II era, marked by decolonization, presented newly independent nations with dual challenges: economic development and national identity formation. Sociologists describe modernization as a transition from traditional agrarian societies to industrialized modern ones. However, this model has been critiqued for its Eurocentric tendencies. India offers a compelling example of balancing traditional heritage with industrial aspirations. Similarly, Japan's success lies in its ability to merge cultural values with technological advancements. These examples underscore the importance of tailoring modernization processes to specific cultural and historical context. Let's talk a bit about Max Weber, belief systems and economic change. Max Weber's analysis of cultural and religious values, particularly in the Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism, provides insight into the relationship between belief systems and economic behaviors. Weber argued that the rise of capitalism in Northern Europe was not purely due to technological advancement or structural economic changes, but was closely tied to cultural and religious transformation rooted in Calvinism. Weber identified Calvinism, a branch of Protestant Christianity, as a critical driver of capitalist development. The core theological concept of predestination, a belief that salvation or damnation is preordained by God, shaped the behaviors of Calvinist communities. Without certainty of salvation, Calvinists interpreted worldly processes achieved through hard work, discipline, and frugality as potential sign of divine favor. This interpretation had significant societal and economic consequences. Calvinists viewed diligence and productivity as moral obligations. Excessive consumption was discouraged, aligning with ideals of piety and modesty. Rather than indulging in luxury, Calvinists reinvested profits into their businesses, fostering capitalist economies. Weber's work highlights how belief systems influences economic behaviors and institutions. He compared other religions to Protestantism. In China, Confucianism emphasized stability and social harmony over individual economic success. In India, Hinduism focused on spiritual pursuits rather than material accumulation. In Judaism, economic success was linked to adaptability in education rather than theology. Weber argued that Protestantism facilitated the rational, systematic approach to work and economics that characterizes modern capitalism. This rationalization also influenced the governance, education, and industry, shaping bureaucratic structures. Critics of Weber have argued that he overstated religious ideology's role, overlooking material factors like technology and colonialism. Others challenged the universality of his thesis, pointing to capitalism's emergence in non-Protestant context. Contemporary scholars also emphasize the intersections of religion with race, gender, and class in economic development. Examples from history and modern times illustrate Weber's ideas. The Puritans in New England demonstrated how their work, ethic, and community focus contributed to early economic success in America. During the Industrial Revolution, Protestant values aligned with industrial capitalism in Britain. In modern cases, the economic rise of the Asian tigers demonstrates how cultural values drive growth, challenging Weber's Protestant-centric thesis. Max Weber's exploration of belief system and economic change remains foundational. By linking religious values to economic behaviors, Weber provided a framework for understanding how culture shapes societal evolution. While debated, his ideas continue to inform discussions on the interplay between ideology, structure, and economic development. What was the link between cultural values and modernization? Weber's work underscores a critical point. Modernization is not merely a product of technological advancement or economic structures, but also necessitates shifts in cultural mindsets and ethical values. The Protestant work ethic exemplifies how religious beliefs can influence economic systems by fostering behaviors conducive to capitalist development. In broader terms, Weber's analysis highlights the importance of aligning cultural values with evolving economic realities. Modernization, therefore, is as much a cultural and ethical transformation as it is an economic or technological one. This perspective challenges deterministic views of economic development, emphasizing the interplay between belief systems, societal attitudes, and economic behaviors in shaping modern societies. Let's look into Emily Durkheim from community to society. Let's look into her thesis. Emily Durkheim, a foundational sociologist, analyzed the transformation of societies as they evolved from traditional, close-knit communities to more complex modern social structures. This transition can be understood through concepts of Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, originally introduced by Ferdinand Tönnies but further explored in Durkheim's work on social cohesion. What is Gemeinschaft? Community. Gemeinschaft refers to traditional societies characterized by strong personal relationships, shared values, and a sense of collective identity. In such societies, social bonds are formed through familial ties, religious beliefs, and local customs. Relationships are intimate, and individuals see themselves as integral parts of the community, fostering a sense of belonging and mutual responsibility. What is Gesellschaft? In contrast, Gesellschaft describes modern industrial societies where relationships become formal, impersonal, and goal oriented. Social interactions in Gesellschaft are based on individual interest, contracts, and economic exchanges rather than shared values. The emphasis shifts from collective well being to individual achievement and efficiency, reflecting the division of labor in modern economies. What was Durkheim's perspective? Now, Durkheim connected this transition to his concepts of mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. What was mechanic solidarity? What we call Gemeinschaft. Found in traditional societies, it is based on homogeneity, where individuals share similar work, values, and beliefs, creating a unified social order. What is organic solidarity? What we call Gesellschaft. In modern societies, interdependence arises from the division of labor, where individuals perform specialized roles. Social cohesion emerges not from sameness but from reliance on one another's unique contributions to the whole. The transition often results in anomie, a state of normlessness or social disconnection. Durkheim argued that modern societies must foster new forms of solidarity to address this challenge and maintain social cohesion. What was the crisis of modernity in institutions? Institutional responses to modernization often involves resistance. For instance, the Catholic Church modernist movement faced significant opposition. Similarly, Stalin's Soviet Union exemplified the dangers of forced modernization. The rigid implementation of 5-year plans led to severe consequences, including famine, suppression of dissent, and environmental degradation. Stalin's collectivization policies sought to rapidly industrialize the Soviet Union by reorganizing agriculture. This resulted in widespread famine, particularly in Holodomor in Ukraine from 1932 to 1933, which caused millions of deaths. The focus on ideological purity over adaptability highlights the perils of rigid modernization strategies. Now, it was Karl Popper's philosophy of critical rationalism that emphasized the importance of gradual adaptive modernization. It is encapsulated in his assertion that small mistakes can teach us, large mistakes can be disastrous. Systems and ideas should be continuously tested and refined through trial and error, allowing for feedback and corrections without widespread harm. For example, in science, Popper's principle of falsifiability demonstrates how disproved theories drive progress. The gradual evolution of astronomical models from geocentrism to heliocentrism illustrates how the value of incremental advancement. Similarly, environmental policy often employs adaptive management, testing restoration techniques on a small scale to mitigate risks before broader implementations. In democratic systems, policies are frequently tested through pilot programs or regional trials. Failures in these localized experiments offer insights, enabling governments to adjust policies before scaling it up. Universal basic income trials in Finland and India exemplify this approach, reducing the risk of large-scale disruption while ensuring evidence-based decision-making. Economic reforms also benefit from Popper's philosophy. China's phased transition to a market economy characterized by experiments in special economic zones avoided the social and economic upheavals of post-Soviet shock therapy. In urban planning, tactical urbanism, such as temporary bike lanes, mirrors this incremental approach, allowing cities to gather feedback before committing to permanent changes. Popper's insights are especially relevant to modernization in culturally diverse contexts. Abrupt, wholesale changes often fail because they ignore local values and conditions. Japan's selective adaptation during the Meiji Restoration in contrast with colonial modernization efforts, which frequently dismiss indigenous knowledge systems, leading to societal fractures. By emphasizing small, context-sensitive reforms, Popper's philosophy highlights the importance of balancing progress with stability, ensuring that modernization efforts are both sustainable and adaptive. Karl Popper criticized historicism for its flawed vision of modernization, where it was stressed as either an inevitable process or a radical program requiring rapid implementation. Both approaches, he argued, fail to recognize the complexity and unpredictability of human societies. Historicism often relies on historical determinism, the belief that future events can be precisely predicted or controlled based on past trends. Popper strongly rejected this idea, asserting that such assumptions oversimplify societal dynamics and ignore the reality of unintended consequences. In his work, The Open Society and Its Enemies, Popper criticized utopian projects that aim for grand, sweeping reforms. He argued that these projects often disregard the cultural and the historical context, leading to failure. Societies are far too complex, far large-scale changes to succeed without careful consideration of the unique circumstances. Popper highlighted that history has seen significant revolutions long before modern times, proving societal progress doesn't follow a single predictable path. Instead of radical reforms, Popper advocated for incremental culturally sensitive approaches to modernization. Gradual change allows societies to test reforms, gather feedback, and make adjustments, minimizing the risk of widespread disruption. For example, policies tailored to specific cultural and historical context are more likely to succeed because they respect societal values and account for local complexities. Japan, what was the reason for Japan's modernization success? Now, Japan's modernization during the Meiji Restoration is a prime example of a balanced approach. The country adopted Western technologies and governance systems while preserving its cultural identity. This hybrid strategy enables sustainable modernization, demonstrating the importance of integrating foreign innovation with local traditions. Now we start talking a bit about modernization technology. In contemporary times, modernization encompasses navigating digital revolutions, including advancement in artificial intelligence and renewable energy. However, technological progress alone is insufficient. Societal readiness, cultural, economic, and institutional, is critical to effectively harness these developments. Modernization often exerts pressure on traditional societies to adapt. Centralized top-down approaches, such as those in Soviet Russia, have frequently failed. Conversely, pluralistic and locally sensitive models exemplified by Japan and India have proven more successful. The critical question remains: how can modernization preserve cultural identities while promoting global progress? Addressing the tension is essential to equitable and inclusive modernization. While modernization has brought about significant progress, it has also resulted in unintended consequences such as environmental degradation, social inequality, and cultural displacement. Rapid industrialization, for instance, has led to pollution and resource depletion, while technological advancement have sometimes widened societal divides. Addressing these challenges requires inclusive and culturally sensitive approaches to modernization. For example, transitioning to renewable energy must consider the economic impacts of regions dependent on fossil fuels. Successful modernization efforts such as Japan's hybrid approach demonstrate the importance of balancing progress with sustainability and cultural preservation. But modernization matters. Why does modernization still matter? Modernization remains vital in addressing global challenges such as climate change and technological disruptions. It is not merely about adopting the latest trends, but about reimagining societal systems thoughtfully and meaningfully. Modernization is best viewed as an ongoing journey of adaptation and improvement, requiring critical, creative, and inclusive approaches. What are the key takeaways from this talk? First is modernization is a dynamic process involving the adaptation of systems, values, and ideas to contemporary needs. It encompasses technological, cultural, and societal transformation. Successful modernization respects tradition while embracing innovation. Incremental and adaptive approaches are often more effective than rigid reforms. Addressing global inequalities and unintended consequences is essential for sustainable modernization. Thank you.